Do you feel that black and brown people have some form of moral obligation to bear arms for Britain? It's an interesting question. Do you feel, okay, fair enough. I think I can tell the losing side already, but let's hear the debates first. Do you feel, give us some thought to it. Most of us were born here. And most of us, I'm afraid to say, will probably die.
Speak for yourself.
Okay. Fair enough. Not for myself, also. I can see myself dying in Miami. But this is, whether for better or for worse, also, home. This is. So the question is, do we, black and brown people, black and brown adjacent people, our lovers, our allies, everything else, do we have a moral responsibility to bear arms for Britain? Yes or no is the question. To answer that, and we're going to everybody go with their conscience, and you're going to find out which side they're on as they come up and speak. The first speaker we're going to bring to the fore to address that question is none other than a man who I would like to describe as a synonym for anti-Brexit, as a synonym for anti-Faragism, as a synonym for being a pain in the Reform Party's behind. And it's the same thing to the Brexit, what was the party before Reform? It was the Brexit Party, wasn't it? And before the Brexit Party was UKIP, wasn't it? Yeah. I would like to welcome into the uppity circle a gentleman who needs no introduction to members of Parliament of the right wing. Please, and no introduction to all of us, please welcome our little brother, the great Femi Oluwole, or as we call it, Femi Brexit. So Femi, we're going to swear you in now for you to start your... sorry, first of all, Femi, which way do you wish to argue tonight?
I would like to argue that we do have the moral responsibility to fight. Hear me out.
Your stock just plummeted a little bit, but then Farage is probably going to do better at the Thursday election because you just wanted some black and brown votes. Femi, we'd like to swear you in. So Femi Oluwole, do you swear? So what do we swear you in? I know what we're swearing you in with, yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, somebody got a book here for Femi. He doesn't want to swear on that. He doesn't want to swear on that. He's not going to give him Chimamanda's best-selling book. Bring the hip-hop MBA or think like a white man or something. No, Femi, but I know what you're swearing in.
Well, I did send you a picture.
Yeah. So we'll do it. So we'll name it when I call it out, when I say to swear. Femi Oluwole, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, the black truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Sinners.
So help you sinners. Yeah. Femi, the floor is yours.
Right, or Ryan Coogler.
Absolutely. For the next 3 to 4 minutes, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I'm actually going to win this debate by simply pointing out the existence of Shola Kalima on the other side, because this debate would not happen if none of you if you didn't all believe we had a moral responsibility to fight for the UK. Because I remember Jo Cox when she died. Raise your hand here if you had heard of Jo Cox before she was killed. Okay, so that's not most. Well, during the period from 2017 to 2019, I was on the TV pretty much every week or so, arguing against Brexit. I was getting so many death threats that my phone number was on a special list with the Metropolitan Police, such that if I called them, it was automatic blue flashing lights. I was doing that knowing that Jo Cox had been killed because she was anti-Brexit, pro-immigration, and she was killed by a white supremacist. And I am anti-Brexit, pro-immigration, and I'm black on top of that. And I did the maths with the number of death threats that I was getting, the analysis made by the Metropolitan Police, that I didn't think I was going to make it through the fight against Brexit. Why was I doing that? It's because on the day of the referendum results, when I woke up and saw that Nigel Farage had managed to convince the majority of voters to go his way, I thought that this country would never be good again. I thought that this place was not for me. And every single person who's melanated in this room has felt that, especially last summer, because they woke up, well, I remember, me personally, I woke up from a nightmare believing that I was being pulled from my car like happened to that Asian man in Hull. The fear that I felt when the kind of politics that Brexit helped unleash. Yes, we've had racism in the past, but it's been so overt and in your face and running through the streets in the last few years. That fear was visceral. And those of us who are in this room fighting against that, I mean, Shola, you fight that every single day. You are an absolute warrior for that. Do not tell me that you do not fight for this country. I have seen the threats that you get, the disgusting stuff that you receive online. You fight for this country every single day. Kehinde, where are you? Yes. You fight for this country every single day. You had the police knocking down your door precisely because you fight to make this country better. Why? Because we all have to live here. Because we know that if we don't do this, what's happening in America, what we saw happening in the streets during the riots last summer, that is just a taste of what's to come. So we all deeply care about this country because we have to live here. And personally, when it comes, let's just get this out of the way. If we're talking about do we have an obligation to go fight some war that whatever Prime Minister Keir Starmer tells us to go fight abroad, no, absolutely not. Like if he wants to if he tells me to do anything, I'm not going to do it. But if it's about defending us here at home, yes, we wouldn't be here if we wouldn't. This entire arena is set up because we care about black people here in the UK. We all recognise that we have skin in the game. So that's pretty much my point. I've won it by the very existence of you and you. Thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Femi. A default win in his perspective. I think that was I think he deliberately, as we'd expect, so made a passionate and serious and actually very, very far argument there. And we'll see how it bears out in the vote afterwards. Should we go to our next speaker? Sorry, do we have a point of blackness? Of course, yes, absolutely. Yeah, please remember.
Sorry, Femi. I'm sorry, Femi. That's really interesting. But I'm Pakistani. I'm a Muslim, and a lot of Pakistani Muslim people that I know really believe that racism is stoked up in this country in order to then manufacture consent in order to carry out colonial wars overseas. So you need Islamophobia in the press in order to dehumanize Muslims, in order to then go and bomb them and kind of occupy their countries. So I understand the argument about defensive war, but again, I mentioned earlier that I'm a Muhammad Ali fan, and he famously kind of avoided the induction into the American army because he didn't want to go and join a war and in his own words, to kill black and brown people overseas. When, in his words, my enemies are over here. So it's a really tough argument for you to then say to me, oh, you should join the army because you could be conscripted to go to Afghanistan and then kind of, bomb hundreds of people over there and kind of maim their families and stuff like that. Because that's what would happen. Mm-hmm. It's not just a matter of, when was the last time we got attacked where people were coming into our country and invading us? I don't think it's happened in my lifetime. I don't think it has. And also, it then feeds into the fluidity of the racism because I grew up in the 70s and 80s where Irish people were dehumanised and, when the IRA were much more prominent and Irish people were treated, completely differently to their white skin folk, right? And currently Muslims are probably on the front line of that kind of attack. And it's a very hard sell. How would you sell it to me?
So in terms of going and fighting abroad, as I said, if Keir Starmer tells me to go somewhere, I'm not doing that. Your point about being sent abroad to go kill black and brown people, as Muhammad Ali says we shouldn't do, define what is fighting for Britain. I would very much argue that any battle that we go, any exercise we do abroad that results in us committing morally atrocious acts is not for Britain. It is actually sullying the name of Great Britain. I would argue that not only does it damage us morally on the international stage, damage the soul of who we are as a people, every time we bomb an innocent population, every time we invade a country that we have no business being in and steal their resources and bring them back here, carrying on the colonial project, not only does that damage us morally, but it actually undermines our security, because I cannot think of anything worse than the Middle East policy that we've seen over the last 20 years in terms of compromising our security here at home, sending the message constantly that Western values, Western prosperity, Western capitalism comes at the expense of tens of thousands of innocent Muslim lives in the Middle East. That damages our security here at home. So I would argue that fighting for Britain does not include fighting those foreign wars you described. In fact, I would say fighting for Britain would be opposing those wars.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
That's not an argument for conscription.
I'm not arguing for conscription. I very much would not put conscription in.
Okay, point about this. I mean, just to come off the back of your point, I mean, when you're saying fighting for Britain, but what are you fighting for, like you're saying? Because if we were invaded, for example, yeah, you might fight for your homeland or for you or for your family or whatever. But I think, as history has shown us, a lot of the wars that the West has fought, take even the Second World War, we've got VE Day coming up and everyone's kind of making this whole, you know, the kind of nationalism that is being stoked up on the back of those things and trying to make it look like we're all coming together as a country, different colours or whatever, and then basically saying, well, people from the Commonwealth came and fought for Britain. But they were ultimately fighting an imperial war, yeah, while they were being colonised in their own countries, right? But they were fighting for Britain. So I would argue, well, it depends on what that war's from. We've just been talking about beliefs and creating unity and creating a movement where we can raise ourselves in power so that we can kind of fight back in this way. I wouldn't want to feel that I have to fight because I had no other choice and I was fighting for an ideology that I didn't believe in and you know, an imperial war that I didn't believe in, because ultimately, as people of colour, that's what we have historically been asked to do. And I can't see that being any different. You know, the only difference would be if I was being personally attacked in our home. I mean, we've had, you know, if you go back and you look at some of the footage of, you know, black communities rising up against the far right in the 60s and 70s, you look back at any of that news footage, people were saying, I'm going to defend my community. People are saying that now. They'd be arrested for terrorism. There's no way that I can stand up today in front of a camera and say, I'm going to defend my community if a skinhead comes in and attacks my family, because I would be arrested before they would be. We have been continuously, as communities of colour, silenced for standing up for ourselves. And I'm not going to fight for somebody else if you're not going to fight for me.
Demi, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We have to get through another 4 arguments or so before. And trust me, every minute beyond, we get fined.
Just say I completely agree with you. Fighting for Britain means fighting for correct values of Britain, which actually improve our moral standing, and the sorts of wars you describe would damage them. So I agree with you.
What values are they? They're not the values that I've seen so far. I haven't seen them. In fact, we've probably got more for them to learn from us. If they learn first would be in the benefit of England. That would improve England. But for us to fight for them,
point of blackness. Point.
we're not seen as equal right now. And if the only time you're going to see us as equal is when I'm fighting for them.
It feels like you're fighting already. Okay, guys.
I think the point of disagreement is who's calling the shots in terms of where we go and where we fight. If you were in charge, that would be fighting for the UK.
Yep. So let's come back. We're going to come back to this. Also, we still got another 45 minutes to go. Our next speaker, just as brilliant as our first speaker, just as forthright as our first speaker. She comes from a political background. She was a whistleblower in the Labour Party. Because she was a spook who sat by the door. But she's not a spook. She's a sister who sat by the door. And then she spoke out. She ran in the last election, did very well, and we hope she runs again. She's an absolute brilliant musician in her own right, an artist, and someone I'm happy and delighted to call a friend and a sister. Please welcome the great Halima Khan.
Thank you. I don't deserve those kind words, but thank you very much.
Halima, thank you so much, and thank you so much for coming along tonight, and thank you. We appreciate your words and thoughts. Halima, which side of the argument will you be arguing in?
Well, I don't believe we have a moral right to bear arms for a country that bombed the crap out of us, so, no.
Enough. Tell her how you feel. Halima Khan, should we swear you in?
Yep.
Halima Khan, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, the black truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Ibn Khaldun.
Thank you very much. Next 4 minutes are yours. You might hear it better halfway through. That's just so you know you're halfway through. Thank you.
So I would like to preface with the fact that I am Muslim. So in my religion, we are taught to defend our home. But that brings to me a poignant question: what is home? I am British because my great-grandfather, when he was a colonial subject, served in the British Navy, but not as a soldier, but as a worker, working for the Navy. And that makes me the 4th generation British Bangladeshi Muslim in this country. Yet I've still been told to go home multiple times. And at the same time, I am also the 4th generation survivor of the Bengal famine, which was orchestrated by Churchill in World War II. So what is home? Is it the country I was born in, or is it the country that my grandfather fought to defend in the 1971 liberation struggle of Bangladesh? Now, I dream in English because I am British, but I curse in Bengali because of my history. And what I want you all in the room to think about is, what is the archetype of the epitome of privilege of a British person? I don't want you to say out loud what you think is the epitome of British privilege. But as you think of that, I want to mention some names. James Kirby, James Henderson, and John Chapman. They were 3 British veterans that were killed in a directed airstrike in Gaza. To this day, James Kirby's family are still fighting for footage that the RAF hold of that precision strike. And what the British government has done has left it to Israel to investigate itself. So if Britain doesn't fight for the white man who fought for this country, who are we to have a moral obligation to bear arms for this country? Every year there's 300 to 400 British veterans becoming homeless. So in the facade of you must fight for your home, these men and women have risked their lives to lose their homes. So I do not believe we have a moral obligation to bear arms. I believe it is immoral to bear arms and side with the oppressor who oppresses you in your own nation. And just to end on a final note, I will never fight for Starmer, as the Labour Party has been fighting me for 5 years. For me to defend this country would be for me to fight Starmer and his rotten government. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Halima. Thank you. Well, I know there'll be points of blackness for Halima, but we'll come back to that very, very shortly. Professor Andrews, you've put a shift today already, so I'm going to let you speak probably last, if that's okay. Which then brings us to somebody who needs no introduction whatsoever. A absolute legend of making mincemeat out of other people on TV and in many other places. Somebody I respectfully refer to as a bon. She's actually not that much older than me, must I say also, but it's just a mark of respect to us. Which means, of course, it's a Yoruba word meaning elder in this regard. So please welcome. Do I need to say her name? Please welcome Dr. Shola. See how respectful I am. I'm about to give that, but I was about to hand you the microphone with my left hand or so, but my dad wouldn't let me do so, where from the grave or so there we go. So, Edmond, we're going to swear you in. Dr. Shola, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
This is why I resist.
By?
Dr. Shola Moshola. We thank Jesus.
The next 4 minutes are yours.
Thank you. Hey everybody, how we doing? Good. Now, you know, Nels is funny. Nels sends me a message going, Egbon, so we have a session next week, and the question is, do black and brown people have a moral obligation to bear arms for Britain? I swear to God. The outrage and laughter that it drew out of me in equal measure. Before I even checked my diary, I already knew mentally I was going to be there, because please, I said to him, in fact, I'm going to bring my koboko, which is Oscar. Let me find the person that says, oh yes, we do. So the answer to the question is really simple. No, hell no, and hell to the frick no. And we all know that no is a full sentence. So I should just take my seat. But the reality here is the emphasis is on the words moral obligation. So let's take this seriously. No, Shola, you two be serious. Let us apply some critical thinking, shall we? Okay, the first question I have to ask then, or the first thing I have to consider, is that moral obligation implies and suggests that there's some kind of deep connection, some familial connection, something that draws me to Britain and Britain is drawn to me. You know, I put my Nigerian hat on. I said, I don't see it. So where is this connection? You know, I wear glasses. I wore double glasses. I still don't see this connection. Do I have a moral obligation to Britain? I know I don't, because Britain has told me it has no moral obligation to me. And if this moral obligation, as I understand it in British language and British culture, it is steeped in servitude. It is, you should do it because we are the empire. We should do it because we are great. Don't you know we are British? You can kiss my royal black chuddy. I do not owe you jack on, and I'll tell you why. If there was a reciprocity in which I can genuinely say I have seen evidence of Britain demonstrating some moral obligation to me, then as a child of God, yes, I won't have to dig deep. I'll go, but of course, what do you need? I shall be there. No. In the words of Michael Jackson, I will not be there. Don't call my name. Because the reality is this. Does Britain have a moral obligation to me? All I know is that Britain consistently erases my history, so I know it does not feel it does. Does Britain have a moral obligation to me? What I do know is that Britain consistently undervalues me, so I know it doesn't believe it does. Does Britain have a moral obligation to me? What I do know consistently is that Britain tells me I don't belong. Shall I go and find your square roots? Now, this does not mean I don't love being British. This does not mean, as Femi rightly pointed out, I don't fight for Britain. But the Britain I fight for is not the Britain you see today. It's the Britain I want it to be. And that is from a place of necessity. It is a place for a generational change. It takes the toll on me, on you, on all of us. So no, I don't believe black and brown British people owe a moral obligation to bear arms, to put our lives at risk for a country that would not put itself at risk for us. What I do know, though, is that we have a social contract with this country because we live in a social construct upon which there are terms and conditions, and we always get the bad end of it. Let the lawyer in me speak. That's the truth. I do my part, the country does its own part. Country doesn't do its own part, I go protest, I complain and say I wouldn't do my part. That's how we roll. This country would not do for me what it does for a white person. That's a reality. That is my reality. And as much as we're all working to change that, I do not have, ladies and gentlemen, I'm only human. There is only so much mental, emotional, physical energy I can put towards one thing, and that does not include bearing arms out of a moral obligation. Is it to protect my family, me, loved ones, my community? The things I believe in, yes. But if you tell me to do it for Britain, out of a moral obligation, well, where are the tickets to, I think it's time for holiday. Which country is not at war? No. Please, listen, I do not believe that in this country we are taken as people, i.e. black and brown people, We are not taken as people that are seen as part of the fabric of this society. And that is a big loss to Britain, because it means that Britain totally loses out on all of the wonderful things and more that we can do. That's the reality. But let me leave you with this. This does not mean black and brown people or black and brown British people aren't British. It doesn't mean we don't love this country, because we built something here. And we're still building something here. And we stand on the shoulders of those who have paved the way for us. And we are not going to stop now. But what we are not are servants, grateful migrants, like the Kemi, not bad enough, and the like. We are not that. We don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, I'm so grateful I'm in Britain. No, because white people don't do that. You wake up, and I don't know about you, I get up in the morning, I belong here, this is my street, that's my pavement, oh, the sky looks good. What a horrible weather we have today. Have the usual conversation that British people have. That is what makes us, and makes us also understand what that obligation should be. Whatever obligation we have comes from a social contract, not a moral obligation. And the Lord bless you.
Thank you very much, thank you. I don't normally do this. Do something very unusual tonight for me. I'm going to get my Kemi on a little bit. My name is Nels Abbey. I swear to tell the truth, to a degree. The black truth, to a degree. And son of the black truth. So help me, Think Like a White Man by Dr. Boule Whitewood III. I am going to argue, I'm not going to go full Femi. I'm going to go diet Femi. And Femi, that's not that you're in good shape there, I say Femi too. But I say Femi too. In 2014, I had just become a dad, and I wanted to go somewhere quiet, tranquil, and peaceful to go and write a book. So I went to Las Vegas by myself, and because in Las Vegas they pump oxygen into your hotel rooms, so you can't sleep, so you go out and gamble. So I don't gamble, I don't do drugs, I don't do womanize, I just have fun writing satirical books about racists. So that's my thing, and I went to Las Vegas to go and do that. And I was walking on the Las Vegas Strip by myself about 2 in the morning because I couldn't sleep. So I was on UK time, and they pump oxygen into your room, so my head was completely messed up. So I thought, let me just walk from one end of the Las Vegas Strip to the other. Blazing hot, but it's in the middle of the night. And I'm walking along. And then suddenly, I noticed there's a bit of quick, you know when you say there's rapid commotion? Really, really rapid commotion. And it was these 2, maybe 3 white guys. Clearly what I would identify as working class, but I didn't know where they came from. And there were some other guys, which I can't really describe where they were from, because I can't remember it too well. But I just remember the fear I felt personally when I saw the first white guy get his face slapped. And I'm telling you, it was the most magnificent pimp slap I'd ever seen in my life. I literally did. I hadn't seen someone get slapped like that since I left boarding school. And I went to a Nigerian boarding school. And I nearly wet myself. That's how petrified I was. Then suddenly I start seeing these 2 guys start getting the brakes beaten off of them. And I hear one of them shout out. And I'm just walking by thinking, it's none of my business. And I'm walking by, this has nothing to do with me whatsoever. And as I'm walking by, and you know when you just look into the corner of your eye, thinking, no drama. As I'm walking by, one of them, suddenly, when he shouted out, I heard a Scouse accent. And the moment I heard the accent, something in me just felt like, these are my people. They are idiots. I know these types very, very well. I've been up and down the UK. These are, I have an image in my head of how this is going to work. But I felt at that particular moment that, for better, for worse, we're Brits aboard. Kind of have to step in to help these guys. So I didn't step in on the rah-rah, like, what you say? No, I just said, oh, guys, can we leave it alone, please? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. They're friends of mine. Can we just leave them be? So I split up the fight and basically damn near saved these two guys' lives. And I helped them get to the back of their feet. And I looked at them, and we just kind of just spoke for a couple of seconds. I said, what happened? And they're just speaking. I'm not going to do a Scouse accent because I don't do it too well, you see. So, and they just said to me, they didn't know what really happened. Maybe they said something that was quite annoying. I said, be careful out here, guys. It's America. And we spoke to each other, and just kind of gave me a hug as a mark of gratitude. And I looked at them as a way. They went their way, I went my way. And it's in that moment that I go back to. Because it wasn't like I planned that or anything else, it was just instinctive. Are you with me? It was a moment of us. And I thought to myself, could I literally walk on by, knowing that these were two Brits, similar to myself, getting their behinds beaten out of them, might even be killed there or so, or certainly injured. Could I do that and just turn my back on it and then read it in the news the following day that two British boys got killed in the Las Vegas Strip? Sadly, I'm not as cold-blooded or as black-blooded as Katie. But I basically stepped in just to calm everything down and let them go their way. I went my way. But what it said to me that evening, right there and then, was just the instinctive. I'll wrap up in a split seconds. What it said to me was just the instinctiveness of that. It's us. So the question, do we have a moral obligation to bear arms for Britain? The answer is probably no. But the reality is that when rubber hits the road, should Sam be in danger? Should my sister who went to University of Plymouth be in danger? Should Halima, should the gentleman in lovely red trousers over here with his legs completely man-spreading over here be in danger? Should my aunt over here, or should my cousin over here in the purple top be in danger? Should Lola Jai be in danger? Should our sister in the yellow trainers here be in danger? Should any of you be in danger? Would I ride? The answer is yes. Not because I want to, but because I feel something, I don't know if it's a moral obligation or just something in me or so that makes me feel the need to stand up for you and your rights, even when you might even be wrong. Because that's just how humanity sometimes works. I don't know if it's a British thing, or it's a humane thing, or humanity thing or so, but there's just something in me that goes back to those two crying Scouse accents on Las Vegas Strip that made me just think to myself, would I know you guys, let me die before you bury me. And I know you're going to bury me. I know how you guys do chemi. And I'm doing diet chemi tonight. I know you're going to chemi me tonight or so, right? It's no problem. I knew this was a crooked job before I got into it. But I'll just say this, right? That the idea of bearing arms for Britain, I don't know how many of you have shot a gun here before? Yeah, shooting guns is actually a very scary thing. So bearing arms is actually quite a scary concept. And being shot at too, which I've never done. I'm not a street guy before you start spreading rumors about me online or so. But no, I shot a gun at the Las Vegas Strip, and it's quite a scary concept. And having somebody in rows beside you shooting guns is quite scary too. I was going to finish by saying this also, right?
Wait, Las Vegas, did you kill Tupac?
No, I didn't kill Tupac. But I will say this. I'll end by saying this. It's not I don't feel inherent, because I do, of course, I know our history. Britain has betrayed us again and again and again. Right now, Britain betrayed us last year during the riots or so, and Britain pretends as if the riots never happened a week later. Britain will betray us again tomorrow, we know that. But I'm not thinking of Britain in terms of the whole mythical kith and country thing. and that sort of stuff. So it's not how I feel about it. So I don't think of Britain as Keir Starmer. I think of Britain as Femi. I think of Britain as Kissa. I think of Britain as my sister in the lovely pink tracksuit over here. I think as my sister in the lovely pink one piece behind her or so. I think of Britain as us. And for better, for worse, it's just us. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't stop at Britain too. Doesn't mean if I didn't hear a French accent or the Las Vegas Strip, I wouldn't have stepped in. But I just feel that something in me or so, just that instinctiveness that he's an idiot, but these are our idiots. So there we go. And there we go. I'm happy to be Kemied, but before I get Kemied or so, I think I'm going to let the first person, they say, he who has never felt affinity for the Scousers, so should cast the first stone. So I'm going to let Professor Kate Andrews cast the first stone. I have never been more scared or shaky in my life. Thank you very much. Should we swear you in, Professor Kate? Which book do you want to swear in with? Oh, I've got your book in my bag also.
No, let him use mine.
Okay. I want to say one thing, just before we swear in, I'll say one thing, right? I'll be back on Good Morning Britain on Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. If you want to see a handsome man on television, Kwasi Kwarteng will be there. But I was speaking to Kwasi. I was reading Kennedy's book, and I was speaking to Kwasi about it, and suddenly he just came over and he said, "What's that you read?" I said, "I'm reading Kennedy Andrews' new book," and his words to me were, "Oh my God, that guy is a genuine radical." He is something else, that guy. He is something else, that guy is. So yeah, but Kwasi's coming here. He's promised. He said he's going to come to Uppity. He's sworn to it, so he's going to come. He will be here. He said just give him a month or so notice. He said he will be here. Yep. Well, I couldn't possibly comment. So, but look, let's swear you in. Professor Kate Andrews, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, the black truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Dr. Shola Moshabemi.
Thank you. The next 4 minutes are yours.
Thank you. All right, I'm actually going to play both sides of this, because I'm seeing this uneven. And I'm going to give you Malcolm, because why not? What would Malcolm say if he was here today? Two things, very, 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 very simple. You're not British. I mean, this isn't a complicated question. If you think you are British, it's a different thing. But, you know the Windrush? That wasn't some happy boat that was coming over here with all voluntary migrants. You ex-slaves. You're colonial subjects. What have you got in your head that you think you're British? You're not British. Don't away with this straight away. Right? You're not British. Like, if you think from Malcolm, this is what Malcolm, even before Malcolm, when Malcolm was a hustler in the Second World War, he got conscripted, right? He goes to he's not even political at this point, but he gets a plan. He doesn't wash for 2 days. He goes into the place and says, "Oh, give me a gun, I'm going to shoot Whitey." And guess what they say? "We don't want you in the army," right? That's how Malcolm got, and that was Malcolm before he became Malcolm, right? He had sense then. Now, when he becomes Malcolm, he understands, look, you're not an American, you're not British, we're not actually part of this system, we are victims of Britain. So if you're a victim of Britain, why on earth would you be fighting for Britain? You shouldn't be on the side with them, you should be against them. Mau Mau, we talked about Mau Mau before, we need a British Mau Mau. All right? Okay, but that's the Malcolm X side. Look, if you're a revolutionary, of course. But, and this is the big but, I hear lots of people now you keep telling me you're black British. Right? Who's the hands up if you're black British? You black British? See, I'm black. I'm not British. So you ain't never catching me fighting for these people. But Femi's 100% correct. If you do believe in this nation, if you do believe it can be reformed, if you do believe it can be changed, if you do believe we can all hold hands in harmony and work together in Obama kind of justice, then yeah, of course you've got to fight. What would Martin Luther King would tell you? Of course, you shouldn't just fight, you should fight harder than them. Because you've got to prove that you're British. You've got to prove that we're reliable. All right? Malcolm, give you another Malcolm. What did Malcolm say? House Negro, field Negro. What did the house Negro? Loved the master more than the master loved himself. Would literally fight harder for the plantation than the master would himself. And rest in peace, my grandmother and grandfather and that generation of Caribbeans, but they were more British than the British. I have never met anybody more pro-colonialism than my grandmother from Jamaica. Unfortunately. Picture of the Queen and Jesus, that was it. She'd hate my book. She wouldn't read it. She'd be like, "What are you doing?" Right? And so, I'm kind of laughing and joking about this, but in real life, what's the biggest thing that's changed since Malcolm died is that when Malcolm died, none of us are really in it. I couldn't be professor of black studies. I couldn't be professor. It's unlikely I'm Professor Nat. You actually have more chance of dying in the next 20 minutes of them becoming a professor. That's the stats. I checked as well. I actually checked. This is actually true. So things have changed. The only thing that's really changed is that token integration has meant you have black professors. You have black politics. You have Kemi. You have Mr. Hairline. You have. Sorry. I mean, come on. Just go to the bar because everybody knows you go to the bar. It's not that big. It's not that hard, right? Anyway, but you have that, right? And that thing has changed. So now we all think we're British, right? We all want to come here. People are trying to get into the plantation. And if you are going to take the argument, no, it's true. No, what? I'm making it plain. Don't like it, but it's true. Right? So if you think that Britain can be reformed, of course, when Britain calls you to war, you have to go fight for your mother country. But if you want revolution, and you should want revolution, I want revolution, then bond the whole thing. You're not British. It's fine. It's fine. All right? But, and this is why the politics matters, right? It's revolution or reform. It's not revolution-ish, reform-ish. It's either or. And you can't pick. You have to pick one or the other. Pick my side. Come to Malcolm. Bond the thing down. But if you're not prepared to do that, you're gonna go fight for these people. That's the reality of it. So I'm both sides on this. Depends what. Pick revolution. The only solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Andrews. Right. Free for all, point of blackness. Let's get it cracking. I see Professor Dr. Shola. Then we'll go to Drake afterwards. So.
Second time. Sorry. In fact, let's let our brother come forward. Yeah. First? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Point of blackness. Wow. On the back end of all of this, I would like to say, I would actually like to implore everyone to realize and remember that our tomorrow as minorities in this country is not promised at all. We might think it is because it's been a long time, we've been in for a while, we're probably safe. We're not. Perfect example, I was born and raised in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and I was born in '96. Wow. Yeah.
That was a good year, man.
Yeah, I was born in '96. I was born inside of the Netherlands. I did not get a Dutch passport until I was 18, just in case I would fuck up, so they could, sorry for my language, so they could deport my ass. Again, sorry for my language. However, my sister, who was born before me, did have a Dutch passport at birth. And my younger brother, after me, also had a Dutch passport at birth. The only thing that changed is that in '96, the Dutch government just decided, maybe we don't need as many Moroccans in this country, so we're just gonna change the law. If I had done something, or let's be honest, if I had been caught doing the dumb stuff I used to do as a kid, I would have been out of there. And I would not be in Europe today. And even, like Femi, thank you for your words today, if you feel like there's a chance of reformation in this country, even then, do we have a moral obligation to bear arms? Even then I would say no. Because we need our numbers at home. Let them fight their war. We need us right here, as many as we can. There's no point for us to go overseas and die in some dumb, immoral war that we're not going to gain a single penny from. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, just one really quick thing for me. Obviously, I know I'm going to get battered today, but look, the vote is open, so if you wish to vote, you've got the QR code over there. You can scan and make your vote. Please don't vote more than once, because I know how you black people can be. I know you Hausa people. Anyway, but should we? Who's next? Sorry, Doctor.
Yeah.
You're next. Then we'll come to our sister over here.
Okay. All right, Biba. I want to remind you about what happened in the Second World War, and even the First World War, and how they conscripted our people from our countries to come fight their wars. That today, the present day politicians today discount the contributions of our forefathers and foremothers. The fact that, look at countries like India that were starved to death simply because, in the Bengali famine, simply because they didn't matter. They were contributing to Britain's efforts in the war. So as far as I'm concerned, the history and evidence is there. There has to be an understanding that this is beyond there is no requirement of moral obligation. If there was ever a need to bear arms for Britain, then it should be, what am I getting in return if I'm going to put my life at risk? And when I mentioned earlier community, I think, Nels, you alluded to this. I want you to understand, when I say community, I don't just mean black people. Because in my community, my community has black, brown, and white. Because sometimes people don't tend to remember that our white brothers and sisters have fought side by side with us for freedom, for civil rights. The only thing that there were not enough of them in number to make a real change. Always remember the language the politicians use today. They're simply repeating what has been done before. If you know you're not a servant, you don't have this servitude, same way they address the royal family. Oh my God, it's King Charles. Is it Jesus Christ? Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. I mean, do you guys remember seeing a video of a black woman, an African? I'm sure she's African.
Nigerian.
Please, Jesus, don't tell me she's Nigerian. Please. Don't do it.
She was, yeah.
No.
She was, yeah.
This woman saw King Charles at work. Jesus. She then decided, and worse, that's bad enough. Then she now, not only did she fall on her knees, she started to crawl on her knees. I said, Jesus in heaven. So when I made a comment on how embarrassing and shameful she is, oh, don't you understand? She's grateful. Grateful for what? What are you grateful for? That is what they mean by moral obligation. That's where my outrage came from. Oh, she's just happy to see the king. What did King Charles ever do for her? And when Queen Elizabeth died, and they all went, oh, and the whole world mourned the death. Clearly, the whole world is the white world. Because no, the African world, Asian world, did you guys see how the Irish were? I love Irish people, honestly. Irish people don't mess. They're like, da, 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 da. The point I'm trying to make here is, don't get this scared, okay? Nels made he gave a great analogy about connecting with people when he heard that Scouse accent. What you felt there was not about being British, it's about being human. Period. You would have done it for anybody else. It's the same kind of thing I get when people go, oh, Dr. Shola, you're so loud and sometimes wrong. My husband says the same thing, it's okay. The point is, if I was walking past, because sometimes people go, how can you speak on LGBT and you're a Christian? And I remember a friend asking me that question. I'm using this as an analogy for the Bay Arms. And I said to my friend, I said, listen up. If I was in a ditch, putting my hand out, crying out for help, and somebody, somewhere, all of a sudden I see a hand go down into the ditch to take me out, am I going to say, hold up a second, are you Muslim? Are you white? I'm not going to ask any such question. I will grab that hand and get the hell out. Or if I was walking and I heard someone crying for help, hell, it could be Piers Morgan. Believe you me, I would put my hand in there and grab the person out. I'll grab you out, then I'll diss you afterwards if I know. The point is, there's a humanity we all share. And at a point in time when it comes to war, maybe at that time there'll be so many commonalities that will come together that makes us, ignore our differences for that moment. And maybe through that connection, those who used to hate us will go, oh my God, why did I ever hate you? Why did I ever fight you? But they don't think that way because they're comfortable and the system works for them. And there was something that Kehinde said that drew this point to me. That the reality here is, when it comes to revolution or reform, the reason why some of us black and brown people are very, reform sounds like a really less radical, painful way to go, is because you are too comfortable. You've gotten so comfortable in your oppression, you found a way to work through it, navigate through it, you found a way to just exist and have your head above the parapet, that you do not have the energy to do something different. Don't get me wrong, I understand. But that is why we are not where Malcolm X is. Doesn't mean we can't change tomorrow. Even our white brothers and sisters, think about it, George Floyd happened. Oh my God, oh my goodness, did that really happen? I didn't realize. Can you help me understand? Bro, I'm still trying to process my own grief. I don't have time to, feed you ginger nut biscuits and give you a cup of tea to make you comfortable about what you just saw. My friend, sit down. This is what I'm talking about. So forget moral obligation. Everything that we have that connects us to Britain is beyond any sense of morality. That's because there is no reciprocal obligation. So as far as Shola, when I came out to my mother, it wasn't doctor. It was Ade Shola. So when Shola came out of her mother's womb, hallelujah. The point here I'm trying to make is that I have had to learn so much, just like all of you, in our growth and in our journey, that now we must have reached the point where we understand that our lives, our destiny, our journeys is ours. In our hands to control, to decide, and we need to fall out of this nonsense, this systemic bullshit, forgive my French and Yoruba, that tells us that this is how we must do things. That has to stop. Do you understand? When Kende talked earlier about academics speaking to academics, the way the academia works and the way the academia, is trained. The reality is, even in academia, being peer-reviewed is white supremacist centered. When you go to work, it is whiteness centered. So of course, there's no way academia can easily translate into revolutionary action. It can't happen. Do we understand? So please, stop talking about moral obligation, Moral obligation. For what?
Thank you. Quick couple of things. So our sister here wishes to make a point. We'd like to come into the circle, into the uppity circle. Sis, they fine us. Yes, you look fine. They fine us for every minute we go. So you've got about 2 minutes because we want to get as many as possible. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm going to try and speak really fast. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've got 2 points to make. I think the first one, I'm going to go back to what Dr.
Oh,
Shola
please, sorry, 1 second. Please vote, guys. We need your votes. Yeah, please votes. Yeah.
What Dr. Shola said.
I love your hair.
Thank you. In terms of the moral obligation, it's more of an entitlement. And I wanted to say the British entitlement, I think we should see it as white supremacy. And it's the same type of entitlement that has actually killed a lot of African leaders because they gave themselves that entitlement to okay certain assassinations and have robbed us Africans of a real good future. And so I think we need to be careful when we kind of submit to that obligation because we kind of submit to the very thing that's taken away a lot of greatness from our future. And in terms of my second point, I think generally there should be no moral obligation for war anyway. I think most leaders should get into a boxing ring and fight it out themselves. Because when they do war, it's never their family or children that go to war. It's other people's family and friends that dies. And there are no winners, only the people who survive the war. And I say this as someone whose father fled here in the 90s. I'm from Congo, and my father was in the army. He was a captain. I don't know if he actually fought in a war to get to that point, but I just knew him as a captain because he bragged about that quite a lot. But what I did know is that at some point, the country that my father fought so hard for was the same country that he fled from. And I think that's an important message to all of us. We cannot have undying loyalty to any country or any land because very quickly we can find ourselves running away from that same place we call home. And I think we see that, we see how war even betrays the people that fight for it, through the veterans who are homeless, the veterans who are struggling to access mental health facility resources, who are homeless. I think this is some of the things that we should actually take into consideration, the aftermath of war. And I say this, again, as someone whose father was in the army in Congo, when my father had to fly away from Congo, it was so undignifying to go from bragging about fighting for Zaire or working for Zaire to then running away from Zaire and having to give up the same information that he was very proud of as a way to get into another country where we then come and face systematic racism. So to give yourself such undying loyalty to one land or another, I think is a bit of a stupid move because either way, a land can betray you when it's beneficial for them.
Quick point of blackness. Your dad was in Mobutu's army.
Yes, he was.
Oh wow, okay, fair enough. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you can see why he flew.
Not too many people admit to that today. That's what I was saying.
No, of course I'm going to admit to that, but obviously there's a reason why eventually he saw the light or he was actually targeted and he had to fly. So to go from being proud Zaire and Congolese to then coming to Britain and getting jobs that was below his standard, as he would see as a man who was educated, to then become a cleaner, or to see that his education that was relevant in Congo is no longer relevant in the UK. It shows again how white supremacy diminishes your humanity as a black person. So why would I then feel a moral obligation to fight for white supremacy when it is the reason why I'm here?
I hear that. Thank you, sister. Thank you. Welcome to Uppity. Welcome. That's our sister's first time. Kissa, please. We must be really quick. Kissa, then we'll come to our sister up behind, then we'll come to our brother here. So yeah, we're rapid fire time now because we get fined £10 for every minute we're over here. So yeah, and they like us in this venue.
I was just going to say that I think I've spoken to British people my age as well who are white, and they also wouldn't bear arms for Britain. I also asked myself, like, if Nigeria said, should I bear arms for Nigeria, would I? And I don't know that I would. I think it's because of what's been said with a small minority benefit from exploiting the majority, asking for us to fight for them. And I think that's never right. But if I can't say I can fight for Britain or I can fight for Nigeria, then I don't have a home that I'm fighting for. And that means that I'm lost in a way, and it also means that we're divided, which is how they want us. So I guess it's not just saying, this is what I won't fight for, but it's also asking yourself, what is it I will fight for? And finding that community and organizing yourself within that community so that there's something else that you can fight for.
Thank you so much for that. I would strongly advise you against fighting for Nigeria, because if you get shot in Nigeria, you pull up at the hospital, we know what they'll say to you. We don't treat bullet wounds here. I swear to God, that's a real life situation. We'll come back to that another day. Our sister, please. Rapid fire, sis, please. Then we'll come to our brother over here.
Point of blackness.
Please.
The first is, I think it's a great thinker that said, I will serve crack before I serve this country. Amen. Secondly, this idea, Femi, of like, bearing arms because you want to protect this country, to resist. We've seen what happens when black and brown people resist in Palestine. What are they called? What are they labelled? Like, who decides that? As soon as they decide that the opposing force is the enemy, then you're the good guys. But if it's one of their friends, if it's the US, if it's Israel invading, then if you're bearing arms to protect your community, you're a terrorist, right? That's how that works. They decide. So why would I ever sign up? What you described, Nels, about standing up for somebody who you saw, I think it is humanity, but it was also about standing up for someone who's oppressed. You saw in that moment, there was someone who was weaker, that was oppressed. That's what it was. I don't think it was the British. I don't know that it was the British or the Scouse accent.
I think it was, actually. Honestly, I think because the slaps, normally I just think, oh my God.
I'd like to think you're a better man, that you would have, if you'd seen someone bloodied on the floor, you would have stepped in, or you would have thought, no, that's not right. I would hope that we would all think that. I would hope that if you saw any of us like that, regardless of whether we were black or white, what accent came out of us. Like if my accent wasn't this, and you saw someone slap me like that, I would hope you would step in, regardless of what accent came out of me. Yep. So, yeah. I hear that. But what I'm saying is, it was a moment of weakness. You saw someone weaker, you saw someone with power, you stepped in for that reason. I'd like to think you were an outsider, you could step in. I'd like to think we would do that. I don't know that it was the Britishness that bound you to them. And the thing that keeps coming back is we'd stand up for each other, we'd fight for each other. But do you bear arms for it? Do you need to label yourself bearing arms for a country to do that? We fight for liberation for each other, like every day when we turn up for each other.
We do, indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Thank you. My brother here, please.
Point of blackness, I'll try and be very quick. Firstly, to say, Shola, this is a great question. I think that they should have you on GB News and have this debate being played out across the country, because I think there are so many people, you mentioned Black Lives Matter and the reaction of white people, particularly across the country, who would learn so much from actually hearing the points that you've made across this debate, and hearing how, if you don't feel like you're getting a fair deal from a country, why should you be the ones who are going to have to kind of risk your lives? I also wanted to go back to what the sister a minute ago kind of referenced in saying that in terms of our common humanity, and trying to say that be careful about the people who are spreading the idea that if you should be fighting, who is it that we're fighting against? On the other end of the, you know, at the other end of the gun that you're being asked to hold is somebody who you're willing to shoot. For whose benefit? When it comes to, you know, the idea that if you're going to fight in a war, for the causes of like nationalism, imperialism, be careful of the people who are trying to sell you that idea that you have some common feel-good, shared humanity, shared consciousness because of this nice nationalistic, patriotic feeling. But at the end of the day, if that's being weaponized to say that this is the legitimacy that's being given in order for you to brutalize and oppress other people, you need to be very careful of the myths that somebody's trying to weave in order to make you do something. And I think what the sister was saying about actually the thing that they don't want you to think about is what serves you, what serves your community, and what does you know the idea of fighting like genuinely mean for you. And I think that's the kind of the broader message that hopefully that we'll take away from today, is that it's not about just thinking who are we going to, you know, pick up a weapon and shoot against, but what does the idea of, you know, being compassionate, being human, being, you know, brothers and sisters to each other mean for us in this country? What does it mean to fight for something better and a better future, and kind of take that forward? And there have been so many good contributions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. We're running low on time. We'll take Sam. Sorry, we haven't heard from our sister over here. Should we hear from our sister over here? Then we'll come to our brother, sister, and we'll come to you, Sam. Is that okay? So, sis, you got to really quick.
Yeah, well, I forgot what it was. Point of blackness. I was trying to find it on there.
It's not that hard, sis. Yeah, please go ahead.
Forgot about it. But I just wanted to quickly just add, I mean, I agreed with a lot of things that were said, so I don't...
Are you American?
Right? No, I'm not. I'm Caymanian.
Oh, sorry, I thought I had an American accent. I was going to say, you got me all the way from Brooklyn or somewhere. I've been...
My mom lived in America, long story.
Okay.
Picked it up.
Well, welcome.
Thanks. I just wanted to kind of not reiterate some of the things that were said already, but I just wanted to add to it, if that's okay. I thought about it in two ways because it was brought up in two ways. The first way in which it was kind of resonated with me is the idea of what are we fighting for, not in the sense of war, but in the sense of ideology. And when we think about what we're fighting for and what is our moral obligation in regards to ideology in Britain, it is completely at conflict. It's completely at conflict because we know that the grains in which this floor, wherever you came from today, we've definitely been ingrained into what whiteness is, white society is, racial capitalism. We all participate in that. So when you're talking about what is our moral obligation, well, if you actually stand against what's happened to many black and brown countries, racism, colonialism, then you would know the answer is we are not morally obligated, nor have we got any business standing for it, right? But at the same time, for many people in here, you might feel tied to Britain, you might have been born in the country, I haven't been, but I still feel like Britain has raised me. I've been here since I was 8 years old. The education system has raised me. I have my friends. I make money here. So I do have some level of obligation, but it's to humanity. And I just wanted to raise the point that today I saw escape a lot in regards to what is obligation to humanity, and is that humanity to Britain? It's not. Britain benefits from us being good to humanity. That's how it works. So we need to change the way that we're doing things, and Britain will benefit in the end. But we're always going to be at conflict on the land because Britain's values are different from humanity values. They just say on the top. They just say it on the top.
Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, last point. Political education matters a lot. Everyone said it before, but I need to make sure that everyone remembers this point. You have to open up your mind first. Who said it? Malcolm X. When he became awakened, he went on a journey of education. And from that point, he was able to go and do the great things. Ain't about anything else. You have to awaken yourself.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. We are literally out of time, but we're just going to be really rapid fire. Femi, I know you've taken a lot of fire tonight, so please, you have a moral obligation to defend yourself.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, sorry, Femi. Let's go to our brother, because our brother says to him, really, really quickly, guys, so sorry. Then we'll come to you, Femi, then Sam, then we're going to go. Literally, 2 seconds. It's really expensive to overstay here. Please.
Yeah, sorry, I'll be very quick. I just wanted to say that I know we spoke a lot about, I know Dr. Shola mentioned about complacency, which I think is like a massive thing with us. And time again, I get really kind of shocked at how complacent we become as a collective in Britain, particularly when we see things like the Windrush scandal happening, when people have come from the Caribbean particularly and have been here for so long and have essentially built this country in many ways and have been told that they have to go back to their country after being here for such a long time, and how complacent blacks have become here when they see overt things like that happening. It's so bizarre to me that we kind of like have these like moments of like outrage and then we just fall back into place of just like our mundane lives again. And one of the things that, there are many different ways to be revolutionary, and one of the things that I think is that I've looked a lot into citizenship back home now, of Caribbean descent. My parents are from St. Lucia in Jamaica, and one of the things I decided to do was to get my Jamaican citizenship because I want to start building back home and start looking at opportunities back home. So not only have I taken the steps, I did a lot of work with the Jamaica High Commission and the Jamaica Diaspora. And so one of the things that I did as well, I got my brother his Jamaican citizenship, my other brother his citizenship, and my 10-year-old son his citizenship. And that's what I'm saying. It's not just about going out marching, it's about looking at other ways to be revolutionary and to give back to where you actually come from and where your actual home is.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you so much. I always find it fascinating when you see somebody who looks about 17 years old and they say, I have my 10-year-old son, and you think, it's like, my God, sis, genes.
I'm 36.
Oh, wow, okay, there we go. Jamaica at the house. Well, there we go. Where we going to next? Should we go to Sam, then we'll let Femi defend himself. Quickly, then we'll announce the verdict.
Point of blackness. This was actually really important because I hadn't thought of it earlier. I live in South London, not far from Brixton, and in Brixton are the Black British Archives. And outside the Black British Archives is the war memorial dedicated to the black soldiers who fought in World War I, World War II, which was only opened 70 years after World War II. And it was the first kind of recognition of those soldiers. So someone, I think Dr. Shola had mentioned earlier, that even when you fought for the country, you still get treated like whatever. These people weren't even remembered. Forget bloody being treated like anything. 70 years later, way after their deaths, probably way after their children's deaths, a memorial was set up.
And we probably had to fight for that memorial.
Yeah, it was massive. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing in the Imperial War
Can I just put something out? There's actually a memorial for the animals who fought in the war in Parkland. I'm not making this up. It went up there a long time before the one for black and brown people did. Really, really, like, I'm talking decades beforehand or so. So yeah, sorry, Sam, please.
No, that was it actually. That's what.
Brilliant,
but
fantastic.
That's the point in terms of
fantastic
fight for the country and then actually not even being recognised.
Fantastic. Quick to our brother here, please. Really quickly.
Very briefly, on the citizen point, that the government at the moment, I don't know if it's a law or they want to pass a law, they have the right, I think it came after the Shamima Begum case, they have the right to deprive the citizenship. That law actually, technically, apparently, I think, applies to about 6 million people in the UK who have the potential ability to have citizenship from another country. So obviously that's very specifically going to be, black and brown people in this country. So I feel like if the state has... If the Home Secretary just feels like it, they can, because you technically have the right to have another citizenship, not that you necessarily have any actual connections with another place, but if you just have the potential option to have the citizenship from another country, this country can deprive you of your nationality, of your citizenship, and make you stateless, then what kind of moral obligation are you going to feel that you have to fight for that country?
Very good point. Sorry, just the Femi, anybody talks to me, that's the real two-tier in this country, but it's the citizenship thing. That's the real two-tier. We must make sure we push back on that very, very strongly. Femi, you've got the last word, and then we'll take it forward from there. And then we'll announce the verdict now.
Just to really nail down this issue of what does it mean to fight for your country, because when we say that we're not willing to fight for our country, there is something that we lose in that. Because as Keisha was saying, like myself, when I remember going to Nigeria and saying my name to one of the guards at the airport, and him saying, "Your Yankee tongue is ruining our language." There's an element of not having a home anywhere if we're not willing to fight for anywhere. And so when I say we should be willing to fight for the UK, if we are under attack, as what happened during the riots, us picking up as a friend of mine in Sunderland he's the only melanated person on his street in his area. He has now carry something in his car to make sure that he's safe. He and his wife are safe. That is, I believe, is fighting for your country, because when that sort of stuff happens, if we were to see communities being erased as what some of those people want to do, that would be bad for Britain. I would say that standing up and fighting against that, whether they want to call us terrorists for doing so or not, would be fighting for the UK, especially in the modern era where we've got Russia, the war that they're waging against the UK. It's not just with bombs. It's not just with guns. They call it the grey zone, whereby they're using electoral interference, misinformation, that sort of thing. That is the war that we're fighting today, which is why people like Shola, people like Kehinde, people like Nels, they are on the front lines of this war that we're waging today in terms of making the UK a better place.
Femi, sorry, but just point of correction.
How did you get a microphone?
Hold on. Just point of correction. We did not say we are not willing to fight for the country. We said we are not morally obligated to. So when we do choose to fight for the country, it will be on conditions that meet our ground. That's all.
Yeah. But you fight because you feel it's the right thing to do. I think you feel a sense of moral obligation to do what you do. I don't think you could live with yourself if you didn't do what you do. And so yeah, absolutely. Should we be dancing to whatever tune Keir Starmer wants to go fight in some foreign war? Absolutely not. But we should be fighting to make sure that the country is better. And I think that's what you and I both do.
Okay, right. George, should we announce our results? So should we get our gladiators into the ring or so for our father results? So Professor Andrews, Dr. Shola, Halima Khan, Femi, should we get in the ring and get our moment of truth, face our moment of truth? George, do you need the microphone up there? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Should we get that? Sorry, can I grab a microphone? Can I grab that one for you?
1, 2.
Oh, you got one? Okay, right. Femi, here we go. Let's see how this goes.
Okay, the result is 100% no.
Right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, gang. Listen, everybody, No One Can Give You Freedom is in stores on Thursday. We are all heading to it.